Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Brea. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we started in 1988, picking up with the whole situation. Obviously, they're eventually able to find Gavin's mom, but the complicated situation is Levi has a certain approach he wants to take, and Gavin has his. And whether they realize it or not, both of them are just kind of, it is that almost like the ego thing that's kind of getting in the way. It's just like, right, Levi wants to kind of take it slow and steady. We need to make sure the place is in, but it's like, no, Gavin's like, we gotta get in there. This is my chance to see my mom. So he kind of gets outvoted because Sam's like, no, let's kind of go with Gavin's plan. So Levi wasn't focused. He's like, right, I'm gonna clear the room. Like, he's just, I think for him, he even admits later on his head's just too out there right now because of the whole Eve situation, which, I mean, it's like probably one of the most complicated love triangle situations too. And it doesn't help that, like, even Izzy's like, right, dude, like, cause she and Josh ended up ultimately saying, like, man, like, mom and dad look happy together. And Izzy's like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if Izzy doesn't know that Josh knows about the whole Levi situation, cause I don't know if because he knows something happened with them in the past and that there's still something there, but he didn't know, like, that still something has evolved into what it is. Still, I don't know. Because, I mean, obviously I don't think they've had time to really catch up on everything that's happened while he was in 88, while he was gone. So, but even Josh is like, man, looks like dad's good again. Now, that was his biggest regret. Like, man, I didn't know what dad was going through, and I feel so bad because I was so angry at him for so many years. But even, Izzy's like, yeah, but you don't have to be. Like, no one knew what dad was going through. Not even dad, And even later on, he puts it on himself, but even Eve's like, no, like, you weren't the only one. But Gavin's like, no one has anything to apologize for. At the very least, they're happy and together as a family. But especially when Caroline tells them that, that's his mom's name, right? Caroline, that they are going to have to stay in 88 because her plan is to go back to 10,000 BC and turn off the machine. And once it goes off, because any use of that machine going forward has to create a sinkhole to open up the portal. And so, yeah, you could go back to present day, but doing so will cause massive issues down the road. So it's like, you don't want to do that. So, because each time one of these sinkholes opens, it creates more and more of an issue. So that's why the 88 one is causing the issue it is. So if they open one to like 2020, 2021, whatever the case may be, it's probably going to cause the same thing. So they be dooming their present. They try to go back to it, or who knows if it'll pop, what other time point it will pop up in. So they have to kind of make the decision that they're going to stay in 88. And Izzy confronts her mom about, like, right, you still love Levi, right? So for her, it's like, me and Josh already kind of went through this. The worst thing was, like, you guys splitting up. It'd be even worse going through it again. So, like, because if you're not, like, I don't want you to get back with dad if it's just for me and Josh's sake. I want you to be back with dad because that's what you want to do. Because if not, it's not going to last long. It's just going to fall apart all over again. And, just like Sam and Ty have said, like, the situation is, it was Ty specifically last episode saying, like, right, Eve's going to have to make a choice. And in the end, she ends up choosing her family, which is, understandable. And, especially because for Levi was someone she cared for, but the thing is, at the end of the day, he was someone there at a point in time when she felt like the man she loved wasn't there anymore. Now she looks at Gavin, and once again, she's seen it for a while now that the man that she loved is back again, and now she's more understanding of everything he was going through. Even Gavin realizes, like, even though, like, when he now understand what I was going through, he still didn't handle it the best way, but because I understand, really, he didn't understand it, but it still doesn't change the fact is he handled things the way he handled them, and so he's not going to, like, fight them too much on that. So it's just like, he even said a couple episodes ago, like, he would do whatever it takes to win Eve back, because he still loves her, and that's complicated. And obviously Levi I think was saying like I don't remember what I don't know if he was talking specifically about Eve because he was talking about like having like a family of his own. So I don't know if that's what he was talking about with like doing that with Eve, or was he referencing like, oh no, I'm gonna do it with someone else here in '88, kind of have my own life. But in the end, everyone else, because Gavin has to go back with his mom because there's a genetic clock, which I would make the I was like, well, it does, you would rather she'd probably rather it be Gavin because Gavin would be more okay with him making the sacrifice than his own son having to do it because because you assume like, but I guess it's like you have to have enough of a genetic marker because it's like right, Gavin's 50% his mom, 50% his dad, and obviously that trickles down less he's still yes, Izzy and Josh will both have it, but it is probably a situation of like, but even then it's like, it's so trickled down because, well, obviously you have a third set of DNA mixed up in that now, and it's Eve's, so that really like muddles the water, so like they probably don't have a genetic marker connection. I mean, regardless, like Gavin would never have, that's why she went to Gavin about it, because like, it's like, right, I'm not going to drag my grandchildren into this, and you know, I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't want me to do that. So like Gavin was the only choice. So, and she did everything she could to try and get around it, but it's like, this is the only way we can do this. So all of them have to go back to 10,000 BC, and Levi's staying here to start his own life. And that's going to be interesting considering it's like, so what are you going to do in the grand scheme of things? Because like, you're going to be in 88 and you're going to like, I mean, even he's like, yeah, I'm going to start with like a beer on the beach and then I'm going to figure out from there. I'm like, yeah, because well, the way the world's going to play out, but also, well, you know what's coming, but I guess you're hoping that everyone can stop what's coming, but also like, not even just like in the far future from where James and them are from, but more so, because they're from like, when it like 75 is where they're actually from. I don't remember. Like he said it last episode, but I don't remember now. It was like 2070 something. But what about Levi? It's like, right, like, I don't know, just starting his own family and what that looks like. And that, I'm curious in the long run. Well, because living your life, you're going to eventually know that. Which means on some level, there is some version of Levi that was living in this version of Levi that's living in the 80s. There was some version of him when everything went down in the sinkhole, because of the timey-wiminess of it all, because it technically had already, all this has already happened, so you would, but, once again, time, you never fully know, like, how, whether that's like an immediate thing, like, oh, it's always happened, or it is like a slow change before time completely cements itself, so maybe he hasn't fully, cemented yet, because technically, in the grand scheme of time, it hasn't happened yet. I hope I'm making myself clear. I'm probably sounding nuts and not saying it the way, but like, I don't think, I'm wondering how they handled that. But like I said, just because of the timey-wiminess of it all, there has to be a version of this Levi that stayed in 88 somewhere in present day being like, all right, the sinkhole and everything. And he probably couldn't interact with himself to be like, yeah, trust Gavin or whatever, Maybe there'll be a version of him now, I don't know. We'll see what happens in that regard. I mean, it might also be the thing of, well, it's an alternate timeline now. It might not even be like, well, that timeline, yeah, this timeline's already shifted, so now we're already on a timeline B now. Like, the path he's on now is a timeline B. It's not even like the OG timeline that they're from. So, that does beg the question, probably like, if they ever do return to present day, who's to say it will be the present day they know, just because who knows what James and Lazarus are going to do and the effects that's going to have on things, but also just like all this timey-wiminess, all these portals and everything could be having like a temporal effect of like the time they go back to could be drastically different, and we have no idea what that could be. That, I mean, hell, could be like maybe the end of the season, maybe not. I don't know. I could see them potentially going back to present day at the end of the season, but maybe that's not the case. Either way, it was also up to Sam and Riley to decide what they were going to do, which, Riley was all about like, hey, we can set up a life here. A life here is better than one in 10,000 BC. But for Sam, it's like, even if the portals have to get shut down, we'll find another way. We'll find another scientist, because for him, it's like, your mom and your brother are waiting and I'm not willing to give up on them. So, and Riley's like, at least we have each other. But even she admitted, like, right, it is a hard thing kind of leaving everything behind. Specifically, it's like, yeah. And at the very least, it's not like, Josh and Riley have to say goodbye, at least for now. It's like, no, we're all in this together. So we'll see how that works. I mean, because obviously when they come back, they're going to be, well, I was about to say they're going to be alive. So it's like, well, they don't know. That isn't a guarantee. Like, the whole point was like, right, if we get split up, we all head towards the clearing. So they all kind of went into the portal in three different groups. Like, obviously, Gavin's mom went first, then Sam and Riley, and then, like, Izzy, Josh, Gavin, and Eve. But beforehand, Gavin got a vision, which obviously is a memory, which you're immediately like, okay, timey-wiminess, how does this work? Because it seemed like it was Eve dying in his arms, and you're like, okay, how is that a memory? Because it's like, with the Isaiah stuff, it makes sense. It's like, right, that was you there. Those were suppressed memories that finally bubbled to the surface. So it's like, what about this because it's older Gavin. It's not like Isaiah was there to, because it wasn't like a third person view of, it's like, no, it was a first person view of her in his arms. And it's like, how did that, I guess it's like, maybe some version of him, like, this is technically already happened. And because of like some temporal stuff, like there's some temporal wires crossing that, once again, the timey-wiminess of it, that technically whatever's happened, what he's seen has already happened. So on some level, like, the temporal wavelengths kind of connect. And I guess maybe in the long run, this is going to make Gavin potentially choose his dad's side of things, because it might be his attempt to save Eve. I don't know. I don't know what to fully make of that, but obviously Gavin didn't know what to make of it either, and he didn't want to worry Eve, so it's like, no, it's good, I'm fine. As long as I got you by my side, we're good. So we'll see, because for him it also doesn't make any sense, because I'm like, right, it's supposed to be a memory. Like, all my visions were memories, but they also did color it differently. It was very much like in the same color correction as the show is, but his visions always had like a greenish, like, at least I don't know, not unless they're representing it differently here in season 2. So that's why I think it is a little different. Like, it feels like before those were memories. This could, like I said, still be a memory. Like, not unless there's a special circumstance with Gavin because of everything he's been through, but I don't know. Like, it just, like I said, it could just be the show representing it that way, but his visions always had like a little bit of a green tint to them in the first season, not unless I'm misremembering. So I don't know. We'll see where things kind of go on that front. And back in 10,000 BC, obviously Veronica and Lucas Veronica and Scott bring Lucas to the village, hoping that Para and them can help, but it's like, right, they can't. But a newly captured Tomat can. He has the answer because he knows exactly what's causing this. But it's like, okay, but before I get that answer, I want to fight Ty in a duel. If I win, I get to leave. And if I lose, I'll stay your prisoner forever. And you get to get the cure out of me. I figured Scott was going to do something. I thought he was going to like try and poison the dude or something. But then when later on, when he was rooting on Scott, he's like, oh, go ahead and do it. Ty was like, oh, did you not do it? I was like, so what did you do then? Like, the fact is you're still rooting on Ty, and it's like, okay, he made a deal. Because Scott likes Lucas, and it's like, yeah, they become friends, and I was like, and also, like, he's experienced enough death, after losing Aldrich, that it's just like, and just, because also, yeah, because it's all tied to trauma, to losing his brother, and feeling like, oh, I'm not doing anything, I freeze, I couldn't do anything, so he felt like he couldn't do anything for Aldrich, and now he feels like he can't do anything for Lucas. So that's why he felt like, no, I got to do something, whatever it takes. Para didn't want Ty to fight Tomat because it's like, oh, he will kill you. Like, he's a trained warrior. But for Ty, it's like, yeah, like, he's kind of got a similar thing to Scott, where it's like, right, my illness consumed me. Like, the fact is, I lost everything. And he even talked about, yeah, like, when, as we know, when he was initially going to kill himself, it wasn't until he crossed paths with Eve that changed everything. And for him, it's like, now, like, he is blessed to have these moments. And he's like, I have this new lease on life, and I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to protect the people who are important to me, Because if he doesn't kind of do this, then he feels like he's falling in that same place that he was before. Not really fighting for anyone, kind of getting drowned in his condition. Because, I mean, this is a life sentence for him. There's no curing it. So he's got this new lease on life, and he has a short amount of time, and he's going to do whatever he can to help in that time. So his tactic, it's like, yeah, don't always just fighting with a spear isn't the only thing to win in this fight, and he just plays psychological games with Tomat. It's like, oh yeah, your wife, yeah, because Tomat's like spinning the spear on. He's like, yeah, she's not impressed. She doesn't love you anymore. She loves me. You've lost your chance, because Para knows, like, yeah, the reason why he challenged Tai specifically, because you could see how enraged he was when they captured him, and he saw how close they were. That's the only reason why this is, like, he specifically chose Tai. He's like, oh, you two are close. He's like, yeah, that's still, and he doesn't say my ex, that's my wife. I'm sure in this time frame, there is no such thing as divorce. We're still together even if I'm banished. That's my wife, type of thing. So, but in the end, Tai comes out on top. But, it's like Scott still made the deal he did. But luckily, it does work out and Lucas is okay. I do like that, obviously, him and Veronica got closer. Because for him, he feels like after everything that he's done, he feels like, I'm not a good person. If anyone I've ever hurt saw me now, they'd say I deserve it. Which I think Veronica's, she's got that guilt too, because she opened up to Lily, saying like, hey, I chose you, and I'm the reason why you're in this situation in the first place, and I'm sorry. Like, it's like, once again, she was just as much of a victim, but she had talked about before being in foster care, her mom was addicted to drugs. And anytime her mom would try to get clean, which we don't, I guess like maybe her mom eventually lost her battle with drugs, because it's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, it's before, not unless she ended up getting taken from her mom just because her mom was like, kept relapsing, or just like maybe her mom finally like overdosed and that's why she was in the foster care system. But, her, like, they both have had things in their past they're not proud of. For him, it was like, yeah, I've sold heroin to people. I'm not a good person. I've destroyed people's lives. I've fed people's addictions. And I'm probably unknowingly or maybe knowingly, what I mean by knowingly is like, oh, I know that my drugs have killed people. Not that I knowingly give people drugs to kill them. It's like, no, but I've sold drugs, and I know there are probably people who've died. Maybe I know for a fact there are people who've died, and I've done terrible things. He threw that out there, but it probably seems like there's probably other bad things that he did too. But Veronica told him to think of like, right, you write down the things you don't like about yourself, and you burn them to kind of like get rid of that side of yourself you don't like anymore. So now, obviously he's still kind of recovering from everything, but they did kiss, and she's holding his hand at the end, and even I had a big smile on my face. I was like, that's super sweet. So I thought that was really nice. The other angle to this I thought, obviously with the whole Scott thing, like, he was going to be like, no, I'm not going to help you. Because I love Scott was like, no, like, oh, you said you threw the fight. He's like, yeah, because obviously I threw the fight. It's like, no, like, Tai actually won and beat you. Because that wasn't you just throwing the fight. What he said actually got inside your head, and actually you lost control, and you weren't thinking, oh, I'm supposed to lose this fight. He's like, I don't care, this bastard's running his mouth. Like, I need to shut him up. So I was like, yeah, you lost the fight, so no deal. But he's like, oh, you're missing an ingredient, which obviously it feels, there's a part of me that's like 85% chance he's lying. There's always a 50% chance he's not, that he was telling the truth. I mean, maybe it's like, yeah, it mainly recovers him, but maybe there's still just enough in it. But it just probably is just a thing of, yeah, like, Scott is so desperate to, like, he's scared that, like, right, but what if he's telling, what if there's even a percent chance he's telling the truth? Like, even Scott's like, what if there's a 15% chance he's telling the truth? Lucas could still die. It's like, man, I don't want any more death. But sadly, it's like, right, now that's all going to happen because of you, so you let Tomat free, and he's like, oh, like, I'm going to make sure every single one of you pays. So that's going to be, and now Scott's got, it's like, right, Lucas is okay, but it's like, yeah, now I've, like, because of me, so much is going to go wrong. So That's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. Well, we know what's going to eventually happen. Tomas going to return with his people, and it's going to be everyone from the clearing and Paras people that need to work together. Potentially going to have to work with the people in the tower. We'll see how that works. But I mean, obviously, they're not 100% going to be on your side because Gavin and his mom are trying to like stop all the work that they're trying to do. You know, so it's like, I don't know, because even she's talked about like the fact is that there's a lot more to Gavin's dad, and even Gavin realizes that because it's like, right, he did lie to me about the portal and everything last episode. I'm like, because he's still trying to get Gavin on his side, so who knows what else he's hiding, what else he's done to the point that Carolyn and him are on such. I keep saying that, but I it feels wrong. Like her name isn't Caroline, but whatever the case may be, it feels like they're just not. Because she's been in the 80s for a couple years. Because she said like when she left, Isaiah was 3. Obviously, he was older by the time like even them met him last season. So. And who knows in that time that she's been gone, how deeper down the rabbit hole James has gone, that maybe it's like, right, maybe he was somewhat recognizable before, but maybe even, I mean, and even that was kind of an issue, but maybe now he's completely unrecognizable. Ultimately, I have to wait and see how that situation plays out. I'm very excited to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.